The Beauty of the Universe by Theodosia Anonye. The Heavenly Meeting. A very long time ago, before the existence of the human race on Earth, the Earth was in absolute darkness and harbored nothing, which means nothing was in control of the planet. All that existed resided in heaven with the Almighty God. The Almighty God reigned supreme over all other heavenly beings and had millions of angels under his command, in which the bright of the morning star was the leader of the angels. There was absolutely nothing impossible for the Almighty to do. Various angels had their tasks and responsibilities assigned to each of them to carry out daily. With an endless cycle of living in heaven with the angels, the Almighty wanted to have a new race that brought about the gathering of all the heavenly beings to deliberate on how to go about that. God called the angels and said, "Let us create a new race into existence, one who would be called humans, who would take on our image and likeness." With that thought already, there came a question from an angel, where would the human race reside? And another angel bowed down and asked what they would eat. As the angels were anxious about the creation, another angel asked, "Will the earth be under heaven?" And another angel asked how their lifestyle would be, and how big the earth would be. The Almighty, as the most powerful, and in his infinite wisdom, came up with the solutions to all of the questions that were asked at the round table. He alone had the power to bring all that was said at the round table to reality, but being a fair and just God, he considered the opinions of the others before finally deciding on how best to go about it. The first day of creation. After a long meeting that was held in heaven, Almighty God and the angels came to a conclusion on how to create the earth by providing everything needed by the creation, which was referred to as humans, ranging from habitation, food, and a lot more, in order for them to be comfortable. God said, "Today will be the first day of creation." "Yes, Lord," all the angels replied, and God continued by saying, "We are going to start creation now." All the angels gathered together in anticipation of how the earth will look like, although they know the power of the highest heaven. As the most powerful in heaven, he looked into the dark area that he wanted to set up as the earth. It was full of darkness, and looked back to his heaven and smiled unto the angels. He said, "I will make things to be easy for those that will be in charge of the earth." And God notices that the darkness is not good for them. God spoke into the world and said, "Let there be light." Without any stress, the darkness obeyed him and disappeared. All the angels bowed down and worshipped him, and they said, "Holy, holy, holy is thy name." And the archangel said, to the most powerful, "Holy, holy, holy is thy name." All the angels bowed down and raised their heads in worshiping God, and they saw that the darkness had vanished. Behold, the glory of the earth began because God knew everything from the beginning. He commanded the light to have its time, and same also for the darkness. All the angels bow for him. The light was great in the sight of the angels. For many hours the darkness was not seen. And after, when the time for the darkness to come as God commanded it, it crawled in slowly, and all the angels at God's feet bow to worship his supremacy for the powerful act. And God said, "The light shall be called the day, the darkness shall be called the night." And all the angels bowed to worship him. The second day of creation. On the second day, the Almighty resumed and continued to bring more things into creation. All the angels were present again, as they were about to continue with the creation. The earth was about to be fully formed. Although there was night and day, which was created on the very first day, the night was meant for people to sleep, and the day was for people and even some animals to move around. God looked toward the earth and said, "I need separation between the heaven and the formless void below," and immediately it was so. All the angels bowed down and worshipped him, and he called the upper part of the earth sky, and the below part of the earth. And God made the upper part called sky to become a tapestry of light and color, a limitless realm where celestial, such as sun, moon, and stars, will find their home. With a gentle breath, God breathed life into the sky in order for it to carry life and become a home for some wonderful work of His hand. God sees that the sky is beautiful and outstanding, even in the sight of the angels. This stage is referred to as firmament, as it is getting for the night to crawl in. All the angels bow and worship Him because this is their major duty in heaven, after which the night crawl in, and it marks the second day of creation. The third day of creation. On the third day, the Almighty had made remarkable progress, as there was no longer darkness hovering over the face of the earth. The skies had been created, and He had separated the waters in the firmament from the one below. So the Almighty proceeded to gather together all the waters below in one place, so that the dry ground could come into view, because the whole earth seemed to be covered in water. And it was done as the Almighty had said it. So after the separation, He called the dry ground earth, and the waters that He gathered together He named the seas. And the Almighty looked at it, and it pleased Him, because the sight was good. With the separation of dry ground from the sea, the Almighty decided to focus next on man's source of food. He also didn't want the man in any form of dilemma, so He commanded the earth to spring forth all sorts of plantations, grasses, herbs, trees that bear fruits, and so on. So the earth did as the Almighty had said and began producing various kinds of vegetation, which, so much so that there was vegetation everywhere on earth. The very best part was that there was absolutely no one that had the responsibility of planting seeds and waiting for them to germinate. This is because all of these things that grew did so at the command of the Almighty. While making the vegetation, the Almighty also began creating the garden where He had intended for His human creation to live. This garden was an elaborate one that was to be filled with all sorts of fruits and veggies for human consumption. The Almighty also caused various kinds of beautiful flowers to grow and rivers to flow in the garden for the purpose of beautifying the whole environment. And all of this that the Almighty had done began to form a beautiful scenery that all of the angels admired, and all the while giving the Almighty reverence for the great works that He had done, after which the night crawl in, and this marked the third day of creation. The fourth day of creation. Now 3 days had passed since the beginning of the creation, and the Almighty was still busy bringing more things into existence. So far, there was no standard means of keeping track of the time that passed on earth, so the Almighty created light in the skies in order to serve as a division between night and day. These creations were to be for signs and seasons. Following this, the Almighty created 2 great lights. One rules during the day, while the other rules during the night. Then He had made all kinds of stars, and together they had the function of not only telling time apart, but also shining light upon the earth. The Almighty was so delighted in what He had made, so the creation of the celestial began in the sky. He was so pleased with the look of the sky, and He quickly beautified it with little color-shining light called stars. It was so much that the sky was colorful. All these stars were scattered stardust like a celestial artist. They were destined to be the celestial beacons, guiding the way for sailors, dreamers, and seekers of the truth. After this, God crafted the moon, a shimmering big rounded-shaped object that will grace the night with His presence. God placed it in a delicate orbit around the earth, and it is a gentle light providing solace during the dark hour. All the angel bows and worshipped the Almighty by saying, "Holy, holy, holy." And God saw that all these were good in His sight, and He gave the sun an entrance and positioned it at the center of the solar system, shining with a brilliance that could sustain life on earth, and the sun became the most attractive object in the sky. Having a good and attractive sky, all the angels bowed down to worship God because of His power. Every control of the earth was done in heaven, and all the angels were pleased with how God created everything. And after all of these things had been done, the Almighty looked at them and was pleased. All the angels bowed and worshipped the Almighty. And the night crawled, accompanied by a bright shining moon, which marked the end of the fourth day. The fifth day of creation. On the 5th day, the Almighty continued with his great work of creation. The earth was already bursting with the goodness of vegetation of all kinds, and they all flourished, which signified that living things could come into the picture to make the creations so far worthwhile. And the Lord commanded the waters to bring forth moving creatures with life, ranging from fishes, crabs, crocodiles, octopuses, and so on. And the seas were inclined to his command, and they brought forth all of these aquatic creatures of different fine species in large quantity. The Almighty looked at the sky and said there should be some creature that would make use of the sky, and he also created creatures of various kinds, who had the skies as their natural habitat. Every winged creature, such as birds of different types, eagle, flamingos, hawks, parrots, owls, columbidae, and so on, although all were not named by the Almighty. And all these things were good, and they made the Almighty to be happy. So he blessed them to be fruitful and multiply, to fill the seas, and also multiply on the face of the earth. And it came to pass, and all the angels bowed and worshipped him. Now the Almighty had gone a long way since the very beginning of creation, and this was the 6th day. So many things, both living and non-living, had been created. All of the Almighty works of creation so far were undoubtedly amazing. The Almighty knew how he wanted all of these things even before he brought them into existence, thus keeping a record of what he had made. With the creatures of the air and seas in existence, it was time to create the ones who would live on actual land. So, the Almighty made creatures of all kinds and commanded them to produce in large numbers of their own kind. Creeping creatures, beasts of the field, castles, and many more. And when he had finished with all of these and was satisfied with the outcome, the final and biggest task of them all was what was to come. The last day of creation. Finally, the Almighty had created all that was necessary for the survival of the human race, and now it was time to create them. It was a great task, seeing as he had already made sure every other thing was created, leaving out just enough time to carefully mold man into his image and likeness, like he originally wanted. And the creation of humans began with the soil of the earth, with the Almighty taking his time to mold humans to his taste delicately. The process went on for a while, with every single part of the body coming to formation as the Almighty continued his masterwork of art. Soon enough, after a long time of dedicated attention, the entire body system of the human the Almighty had created was ready to receive life. And because the human was specifically created after his likeness, the Almighty himself breathed into the human. It made him a living thing, and the Almighty named the first human Adam, which the Almighty gave wisdom to name all other creatures later. It was such a sight of joy for the Almighty to finally sit back and take a thorough look at his entire work of creation. The inhabitants of heaven were overjoyed after the creation of the earth and all that had been created in it. Following this, the Almighty placed the human he had made in the special garden that stood out amidst other vegetation he had created, which had been specially made to be a place of habitation for the human race. This place was known as the Garden of Eden. Everything the garden comprised was just perfect for a life of comfort and luxury for humans, and the Almighty named the man he had created Adam. And subsequently, Adam lived in the Garden of Eden with all sorts of animals for company. The Almighty then saddled Adam with the responsibility of naming every animal, herb, tree, and many other things he had created. This meant that whatever Adam named any animal was what the animal automatically answered until the modern day. So, Adam named every beast of the field, birds of the air, creeping creatures of the earth, and all sorts of creatures that could be found in the seas. He also named the trees, herbs, and all other creations of the Almighty he had been in charge of. After the Almighty accessed all he had created with great satisfaction, this marked the ending of his work, so he rested on the 7th day since he had begun the work of creation. So, the Almighty blessed the 7th day because he rested in it, and the Almighty also showered his blessings upon all that he had created, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth." So the Almighty gave man dominion over all of his creation. Now Adam lived in prosperity with all of the things God had created and didn't have to do any form of labor because the Almighty, in His infinite wisdom, caused a certain form of mist to come out of the earth and water all the plants, causing them to grow without stress. In the case of living with all that the Almighty had created, God realized that Adam was alone, despite being surrounded by many things. He didn't have someone like him to relate with, which gave the Almighty concern. This made the Almighty call the attention of others in heaven to His observation about Adam, and the Almighty said, "It is not good that the man should be alone and that He would create someone else to be with him as a companion." All of the angels also agreed to this fantastic idea. And with that, the Almighty decided to make Adam a companion who would be of like mind, help him, and keep him company. One day, the Almighty caused Adam to fall asleep. The sleep was so deep that the Almighty took out one of the ribs of Adam, which happened to be a bone found in the stomach area, and the Almighty closed up the open area with flesh instead. So the Lord took the rib He had taken out of Adam, used it to create a woman, and brought her to Adam. And as soon as Adam saw her, he perceived and knew immediately that she was bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh, so he called her a woman, which meant because she was taken out of a man. And he named her Eve, and they both lived together in the garden. They both did not need clothes either because they were both naked and had no idea of it. Stay connected for more biblical stories. Moral lessons. 1. As powerful as God is, He called all the angels to reason together. This means there is power in unity. 2. The creation steps were in stages. This is a symbol that we must plan ahead before making any decision. 3. Throughout the creation stage, the Almighty was worshipped by the angels. The worship was the only food given to Him, which He expected from us as His children. 4. All the creation was done by God. This is a proof that the Almighty created us. We are not created by any idol. Questions. 1. Who created heaven and the earth? 2. What was created on the first day? 3. When did God create the first man? 4. What is the name of the first man to be created? 5. The sun, moon, and stars were created on which day? Words and meaning. 1. Creation. This is the action or process of bringing something into existence. 2. Supreme. Highest in rank or authority. 3. Habitation. The fact of living in a particular place. 4. Inhabitant. A person or animal that lives in or occupies a place. 5. Harbored. A place on the coast where ships may moor in shelter, especially one protected from rough water by piers, jetties, and other artificial structures.